Look at her on this screen for a moment. Barefoot at the edge of the water, shoes in her hand, arms up. And here's what I cannot decide. I cannot tell from this picture whether the sun is coming up or going down. Neither can she. A few years ago, Maria and I fishing near Tiburon, Paradise Beach Park, up in the bay. For a long time, nothing. Just the water, wind, waiting. And then all of a sudden, the line went tight. Whatever was down there did not want to come up. And I'm pulling, and my arms are burning, and Maria is saying, "Gangse, don't lose it, don't lose it." Which is always very helpful advice when you are already trying not to lose it. And somewhere in the middle of all that pulling, a song came out of me. I did not plan it. I did not decide this would be a great spiritual moment. It simply rose. Oh my God, when I know some wonder. It was a halibut, a big one. And I have to be honest with you this morning. I have not caught much of anything since. Not a halibut, not a rockfish. At this point, I would be grateful for even one confused anchovy. That is funny until it is not. Because some of you know what it is to live through an anchovy year. You remember when the choir loft was full. You remember pews in this room where children used to be. There is a name on your prayer list that has been there so long, you no longer know what to pray for that. A body that is not healing the way you hoped. And praise, the kind that once rose on its own, the way that hymn rose with a fish, does not come so easily anymore. You still believe, you still come, you still stand when it is time to sing. But sometimes a song has to travel through a great deal of a silence before it reaches your mouth. So this question stayed with me all week. What do you sing in a year when you catch nothing? Not what you believe. Not what you're supposed to say. What do you sing when the net comes empty and comes up empty again? And there is nothing in your hands to hold up as evidence. I carried that into Psalm 105, and the Psalm did not answer me. It gave me orders. So listen to how it opens. Oh, give thanks to the Lord. Call on his name. Make known his deed among the people. Sing to him. Sing praise to him. Tell of all his wonderful works. Glory in his holy name. Let the heart of those who seek the Lord rejoice. Seek the Lord. Seek his presence continually. Remember the wonderful works he has done. I sat down this week and counted 11 commands in 6 verses. Give thanks, call, make known, sing, sing again, tell, glory, rejoice, seek again, remember. 11. And not one reason given. And at first, that bothered me. Because you cannot order a person to feel something. You cannot walk up to someone carrying grief and say, cheer up. You cannot look at someone who has been disappointed one more time and said, be grateful. Feelings do not walk that way. And God knows that too. But Scripture is not asking us to manufacture feeling. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart. That is also a command, not a command to pretend, not a command to deny what hurts. It is a command to turn toward God with whatever heart you have that day. There might be a joyful heart, or tired heart, or questioning heart, even a heart that has almost forgotten the song. So I went back to those 11, and not one of them is a feeling. Give thanks, call, tell, seek, and remember. Everyone is something you do with your body. God is not asking this congregation to be in a better mood. God is asking you to open your mouth. And then the psalm gives us its evidence, and it is not what you would pick. If I were choosing God's greatest war, and I would go to the Red Sea, water standing up in two great walls. Instead, Psalm take us into a famine, and then down into a hole in the ground. When he summoned in famine against the land, broke every step of bread. The step of bread was the wooden rod that loaves were hung on. To break the staff, that means the shelf came down. Some of you know that sound. It is the sound of the total going up at the checkout. It is the sound of opening the bill. It is the sound of realizing that what used to be enough is not enough anymore. And into that famine, he has sent a man ahead of them, Joseph, who was sold as a slave. His feet were hurt with fetters. His neck was put in a collar of iron. The Hebrew there is even sharper. Literally, it says, iron entered his napish. Napish means a soul. It also means a throat, the place a breath passed through, the place a song is born. So the iron did not only go around Joseph, it went into him, into the exact place the song would have come from. Some of you know what that means. Something happens, and it does not only change your circumstances, it gets inside of you. Betrayal gets inside you. A loss gets inside you. Years of disappointment enter the soul. You still function. You still smile. You still tell people you are doing fine. But the iron has found the place where the song used to live. I think about my second old brother. When we were young, he was big and strong, and he ran with the boys who wanted everyone to know they were strong. And he would not even spit like an ordinary person. He pushed it through his front teeth like a snack. When he looked at a stranger, he did not simply look. he gathered everything he had on his face and put it into his eyes. He said that was how you take the ground first. He was still a boy. And his face already carried the lines and wrinkles that made him look older than our oldest brother. And he was proud of looking hard. Sometimes a person like him learns to look hard because life never gave him permission to be tender. He had a very few places where praise could take root. And then last spring, I was home in Korea, 3 days with this sibling all together, and my brother, now an old man, look at me and ask, Kang-se, now I'm trying to pray, but I don't know how. How do I pray? The song had not disappeared. It had been buried under the iron. The next verse says, until what he had said came to pass, the word of the Lord kept testing him. That word for testing is a metal worker's word. It means to smelt, to put ore in the fire. But nobody told Joseph that. No voice came down into the cell and said, hold on, this is a refinement. He got no explanation. He worked it out decades later and looking backward. So I'm not going to stand here and tell anybody in this room that God is refining you right now. I do not know that, and neither does anyone else. Here's what the psalm does says. The word of the Lord was in that cell. Before anyone in the story knew it was there. The waiting was not the empty part before the story started. The waiting was the story. Was the story. So, what do you sing in a year when you catch nothing? You sing what God did. Sing anyway. So come back out to the water with me. Same bay, same person holding the fishing rod. And I have realized something about that morning. The year I caught the halibut and the year I caught the nothing look very different to me. But they do not look different to God. God did not become more faithful when the fish came up. I simply could not read verse 17 while I was living inside of verse 16. That's what I heard when Rick this morning sang, God will make a way. Because I'm living in verse 16. I cannot see the 17. None of us can. From inside the famine, you cannot see the one God already sent. A week from the last Friday, I got word that people at the shelter needed somewhere to be one more night to stay. By Saturday night, they had it. That means giving up the fellowship on Sunday. That's what happened last week. So I sent out the newsletter late, in a hurry. And then I sat down and did a math. The choir would be thin. I know Kathy will not be in there. And people would be uneasy. I thought just a few of us were going to be there. I was wrong in every direction. More people online than I expected. The noodle cafe overflowing. People carrying their bowls and plates outside and sitting at the table in the California sun like it was a holy day. I did not do that, and none of us organized it. While we are counting what was missing, God was gathering what was present. Now, look at who this psalm is talking to. It says, O offspring of his servant Abraham, children of Jacob, not the ones who were there, the one who came after. People who inherited a story they did not live through. Which tells you what the singing is for. There is a difference between remembering and being nostalgia. Nostalgia says those were the days the sanctuary was fuller, the children were here. Nostalgia, remembering how it felt it used to be. And remembering asks us a different question. What did God do? Nostalgia ends with those were the days. Remembering ends with therefore. Therefore. God carried us then. Therefore, we can trust God now. God made a way when we could not see the ones. Therefore, our empty hands are not the end of the story. And here is the hard part. You cannot hand nostalgia to anybody who was not there. It does not transfer. But a story about what God actually did that you can hand to a stranger. Some of us have stopped telling those stories to our children, not because we stopped caring. Because somewhere along the way we decide we no longer have the standing. We know what we would say, we just do not think we are the ones who got to say it. The psalm never says, sing when you are qualified. It says, sing, sing. Abraham left home without knowing where he was going. I crossed the ocean without knowing all those years. Maria crossed it. Nobody waiting on the other side. And you, I mean that, you, somebody here said yes to a shift at the shelter when it made no sense on your calendar. Somebody took in grandchild and rearranged the rest of your life. Somebody sat up all night in a room where the machines were the only sound and stayed. And somebody kept loving a person who could not return, who could not love you back. You did not know at the time what you were in the middle of. And you may still not know. But that is not a small story. That is a verse 17 with your name in it. Our vision does not begin with a word that faces this room. It begins with a reaching out, reaching out. So does the psalm make known his deed among the people. Come before singing to him. The song was always meant to travel through a bowl of noodle and through a shelter meal, through one person sitting beside another who did not want to be alone. So let me ask you something gentler than I asked at the beginning. What has God done for you that in someone else still need to hear? So turn to one person near you, and about the 1 minute, share the one thing with that person. All right? Now you have 1 minute. Friends, every Sunday when you finish here, you start gathering your things. You think about the lunch, you look for your glasses, and you look for the bulletin you were holding 30 seconds ago. And while your back is turned, the choir sings of you. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon whom? You. The Lord make his face shine upon you. You have heard it 1,000 times. Those are among the oldest word of blessing in all scriptures. And Aaron was given them to say over the people who were still in the wilderness. Not home yet, still carrying everything. And God said, speak it over them now, not when they arrive, not when it is settled, now. In the middle of all those things. That is not the end of the service. That is the answer to verse 4. You have been asking where God's face is, and it has been shining on you everywhere on your way out the door. The Lord make his face to shine upon you. So, sing anyway. Sing in the anchovy ear. Sing without the proof in your hand, because somebody who is not there is listening. And that is the only way any of us ever got this at all. So sing, hallelujah.